G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza. I'm Jazza, and today in this Let's Draw live video we're going to be drawing Deadpool. Now those of you who haven't seen how these videos work, basically I'm drawing on a live stream. There are a couple of hundred people watching, and if you want to join future Let's Draw live videos and get in your request, you can click the link in the description. Otherwise, I'm going to be drawing Deadpool as was requested by MedC88, and I'll be crediting him at the end of the drawing, putting his name and immortalizing MedC or Medic, I don't know how to pronounce it, 88 in this picture. So getting started, we want to rough out the pose, and it's Deadpool, he's dynamic, and you can go with a few sort of areas with this pose. You can go humorous or you can go more actiony, and I'm going to go a bit more actiony. So I'm going to start off by positioning the head. I tend to usually start off with the head, but that's just my personal approach. So I'm going to have the head on a downward angle, sort of looking up as he's landing in a crouch, right? So in doing this crouch, I'm going to be drawing the top of his shoulders, the top of his torso, not torso, like this, and then drawing his front shoulder and his back shoulder, right? So you'll notice his front shoulder has come forward a bit and his back shoulder is pushed back a little bit on the torso angle, okay? So from here, I start to rough out how the body is posed. So his chest is seen, but the bottom part of his torso isn't really, because it's kind of tucked under. And then we bring the arm forward, so I'm going to kind of sketch these twiggy lines into where the arms will be, and then these little blocks as to where the hands are going to be. Okay, so you notice the front hand is bigger than the back hand because the back hand is further back, it's foreshortened, so the front is closer. Then we have our leg pose. So I'm going to have the front leg come down like this, and then the back leg go up. So I'm going to continue going through and refining the pose of Deadpool in his landing position, and then starting to sketch in some of the details. So adding meat on the bones. So you see we've got the bones put in. I just did rabbit ears, but you didn't see them. I'm going to put them up here. So drawing the muscles over where I've positioned his limbs and making sure the foreshortening is appropriate. So this arm is forward, this forearm should be in front of that bicep, the bicep should be in front of the shoulder, and so on, because this arm is reaching forward. Whereas this back arm is the opposite way around. The shoulder is at the top, the bicep is tucked sort of under that, along with the tricep, and then the forearm is further back still. So it's just kind of getting that overlapping happening appropriately. And then I'm just going to rough in where his weapons will go. So I have his gun here on this sort of an angle. I'm just going to draw a block for now, and then his sword is going to be out like this, and I want a foreshortened sword as well, so I want to have the angle and the perspective kind of pull it out and open it up, and it gets smaller at the back. Okay, and then starting to draw in the extra things like the sword sheaths here and here, and then adding the gun holsters, drawing the anatomy and things like that. So I'm going to speed up the process for you so I don't bore you too much, but you get the idea as the picture starts to appear of Deadpool in his crouching pose. So I hope you enjoyed that process of kind of adding the muscle structure to the construction lines of the bones and the silhouette and pose of the body. So the next part is going to be adding some of the details. Now I have a few supplies with me here, and I'm going to go through the order in which I'm going to do this first so you understand what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to start off with my fine liner, and I'm going to go through and add the detailed line work throughout the piece, and I'm also going to outline areas that will be complete black because I'm going to have some shading that will be a little more comic-esque in that style. Then another thing I'm going to do after that is take my Sharpie and I'm going to do a thick outline around the outside of the image to accentuate the silhouette. So that's the process I'm going to next speed up. And then after that, I'm going to approach the whole piece with these Copic markers, and I'll explain that when I get to it. But for now, let's work on the line work, and I'm going to work on the silhouette with a thicker edge and starting to add the details and where the darker shadows will be. So I've got the line work of this character done, and next, like I said, I'm going to take my Sharpie and I'm going to draw around the outside. Now, I've done this in pretty much every single Let's Draw video, and the reason I do it most often, especially in drawing traditional pieces, is it really makes the piece stand out. It A, accentuates the silhouette, and B, really refines where the edges of the character are when limbs are overlaying each other, for example with this arm, which is going over the torso and part of the leg. So I'm going to outline the arm and then the outside of the silhouette. So I'm going to be doing that with a Sharpie, and the other thing that's advantageous about doing this is you can further refine the shape if you slightly are unhappy with it. So for example, I want to bring out this top left edge of the head and then bring in the top right edge, and I can just kind of do that by pushing the lines around. I'm going to bring the chin in a little bit by drawing on the inside of that line, so you can somewhat alter the line work after you've already drawn it because you have a thicker line to work with. So I'm much happier with the silhouette of this head now, and then I can go through and do the silhouette of the rest of the body. So I'm going to go through and do that now with it sped up so you don't get bored. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm quite happy with how this has turned out so far. So my next step is to take my eraser and clean it up a little bit. So I've got a little bit of a smudgy thing on the outside, which is from here where the lead rubs on your hand. There are two ways you can counteract this. You can use something called a smudge guard, which I haven't worn today, which looks like this. And it's a one-fingered glove. I wear it while using my tablet, and it means that while you draw, it doesn't really spread around because of the oil on your hands. The other thing you can do is just cut out a small piece of paper and lean your hand on that while you draw. So I'm just going to use my eraser and go over this piece and erase my reference lines. Now, you'll notice he looks quite bare and a little empty, but that's okay because I wanted to clear the groundwork so I can use these. So these things are called Copic markers, and they're very, very nifty. And I haven't used them in a video yet because I didn't have them before. So I wanted to thank the person who gave them to me. A lady at the Draw with Jazza meetup that we had in Melbourne gifted me with a small box of Copic markers, and they are fantastic. So thank you so much for those. Anyway, so I'm going to be using a black and red, and I'm going to be going through this piece and using the Copic markers. Now, these are fantastic. First of all, they have a really interesting sort of way of painting down. They don't bleed nearly anywhere near as much as other inky textures and stuff. And the other thing is they have two very useful sides. So this is my black Copic marker with the brush side where you can get a bit more detailed, and it's really fantastic. It has a really soft brushy texture. And then you have this side, which is the what do you call it? I don't know what you call it. It's the other side of the Copic marker. Okay, so one thing I'm going to do is, you notice how black and thick and dark that black is. It means I lose all the detail that I've drawn with my fine liner. So something you can do is you can make sure that there's a little of that detail remaining by kind of outlining it. So here, for example, in this shoulder joint, I want to show some of that shoulder. So I'm just going to outline here like that. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Like that, just to separate the two, okay? So now, when I go in to color it in, if I make sure to leave that edge, that white area that I've outlined, as I color in the rest black, it acts as a sort of inverse. It creates that line in white. And it also adds interesting lighting effects to it as well. So that frees us up to filling in black areas without losing a huge amount of detail. We can kind of retain that. You see how we've got the edging, and we show where the shoulder is, and we show where the anatomy is while still using the thick black. So I'm going to go throughout and do that with the black, and I'm also going to use my red, but I'm going to use mostly, for the most part, this other side of the red. And do this, you see how we can very quickly fill it in, and it just has this lovely effect where when you draw over itself, it kind of gets a really nice flat looking area without having that overlay effect that a lot of textures have. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm quite happy with this, and I'm nearly finished, but as you can see, I've gone over the edges in some places, and that's where this comes in handy. So liquid paper, I'm just going to shake it up, make it nice and useful, and I just want to tap in really lightly. So for example, here in the eye, I can't really have that with the red overlay, that accidental thing that I did. And so I'm just going to tap it in and lightly squeeze until I've gotten out enough. Another thing I can do is add refining edges. So for example here, when I want to separate, not celebrate, the head from the other part of the body, I can lightly tap in here and add that highlight, okay, just to the edge of that eye. Things like that, which kind of add a further bit of refinement, but also around here where the red's gone over the edge, I can just lightly tap just to cover up my mistakes. The other thing you could do, of course, is get the black and push out the line work, but I'm just going to use this to demonstrate that you can use this to fix up the line work. So here, between these two, just slightly draw it in. So that is how I would fix that up. And so finally, the last piece of this image is the dedication. So this was requested in the chat by MedC88. Bit of a sign, and then we're done. So thank you for joining me for this week's Let's Draw live video, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't watched the live stream, make sure to click the link in the description on this YouTube video to go to the place where I do the weekly live streams. So in future, you can join the streams, get your request in, and have a picture drawn for you. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you later.